about y'all, but I've always wondered what it would have been like at the time that Titanic hit the iceberg, how chaotic it must have been, and how crazy it was. I will be informing y'all today about the history, facts, and details of the Titanic today that surrounded the picture I chose. It is the last recorded photograph taken 3 days before it sunk. This is a photograph right here.
Ooh.
I will be specifically talking about before the ship set sail, during its voyage, and after it had sunk. First, I will tell you about the Titanic before it had set sail. Many people never really know how much the Titanic before it set sail and its background of being built. On April 30th, 1907, the idea to build the Titanic, as well as the sister ships Olympic and Britannica, was conceived over dinner between J. Bruce Ismay and William J. Peary at Lord's Peary, London's Mansions House. And I got that from Titanic history. They knew right then and there that this was going to be something good that was going to come out of this, and with their mindset being built that the ship would get done. J. Bruce Ismay and William J. Pierce were the first two men that dreamed of building a ship bigger than the Lusitania. Something like this just doesn't happen overnight, and building a massive ship like this, it takes days, months, and even years. It was finally completed, and it left Southampton Dock on the 10th of April, 1912, bound for New York with more than 2,000 passengers and crew members on board, and I got that from Titanic Anniversary. Next, I will tell y'all about what all went on during the voyage right before it hit the iceberg. They had set sail, and everyone that was aboard was ready to have the time to remember forever. At 1:30 p.m., the Titanic leaves Queenstown and heads across the Atlantic for New York, and I got that from a timeline for the Titanic's first. Everyone is enjoying their time on the ship and finally getting settled into their rooms before the night begins. There are many things that you could do on the ship. Even people were having weddings on there and honeymoons. According to the sinking of the Titanic, a legend even before she sailed, her passengers were a mixture of the world's wealthiest, basking in the elegance of first-class accommodations and immigrants packed into steerage. Everyone that was on the ship was high class because of how pricey the tickets were. The suites in the cabins on the Titanic cost the passengers no small sum of the time. At approximately $100,000 in today's dollars, you can see why the world's richest and most elite sailed on the Titanic, and I got that from Ultimate Titanic. There's also third-class families and immigrants on the ship, but their price was much lower, and it was still pretty high to pay. According to the third class of the Titanic, third-class passengers had to make their own fun. Children would have played on deck, and as represented in the popular 1997 film, it is very possible that an important dance took place. A couple days after the boat passed, they wanted the invasion to be stopped to Saddam Hussein's passing. Finally, I will tell you about what went on after the Titanic hit the iceberg and sunk. Have you ever wondered why the Titanic did not see that they were going to hit an iceberg coming up, and then there was a chance that they might hit it? Everything was going smoothly on the ship. However, just before midnight on April 14th, the RMS Titanic failed to divert its course from an iceberg and ruptured at least 5 of its hull compartments. These compartments filled with water and pulled down the bow of the ship, and I got that from history.com. This just happened so quickly, and no one even knew what they were going to do, where to go, and what was even going to happen. There was a 60-minute delay between the collision and the first Titanic lifeboats launching, and I got that from Sinking of the Titanic. It did not take long for the bow and stern to reach the sea bottom. The lifeboats just had abroad were not enough for all the passengers. Many of them were fighting to try to get into them, but the crews were loading them by gender and what class they were in. And a lot of the men got left out. The Titanic went under the waves at 2:20 a.m. ship's time, April 15th, about 400 miles off the Grand Banks of Newfoundland. And I got that from 100 Unsinkable Facts About the Titanic. With the water being so cold, it was very hard for people to make it because their bodies were not used to something like that. Nearly 330 bodies were pulled from the Atlantic as teams set out to recover victims of burial. However, 119 of them were too damaged to take back the shore and were buried at sea. And I got that from Titanic Facts 2015 anniversary. In the time that I have told you, I hope you have learned a little more about the history behind the sinking of the Titanic. We all know about the Titanic before it set sail, during its voyage, and after it sunk. I informed my audience today of the history, facts, and details of the famous picture that was taken right before the Titanic hit the iceberg and sunk. Now that I've told you about this tragic sinking of the Titanic, I hope you've learned more about it than you've ever known before.